The morning sun peeked through the blinds of a small, cozy apartment in the quiet town of Cedar Ridge. The air smelled faintly of coffee and fresh bread from the bakery downstairs. A woman in her late 30s sat at her kitchen table, her fingers tapping lightly on the edge of her mug. Her name was Evelyn Carter, though most people knew her as the CEO of Crestline Foods, a thriving company known for its organic snacks and ethical business practices. But today, Evelyn wasn't dressed in her usual tailored suits or polished heels. Instead, she wore a simple sweater, jeans, and a pair of worn-out sneakers. Her hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, and her face was free of makeup. She looked like anyone else you might pass on the street, and that was exactly the point. Evelyn had decided to go undercover. For weeks, rumors had been swirling about theft at one of Crestline's distribution centers. Products were disappearing, inventory counts were off, and morale among the staff was plummeting. Evelyn had tried everything: increased security, stricter audits, even hiring a private investigator. But the problem persisted. So she decided to take matters into her own hands. She would work alongside her employees, not as their CEO, but as one of them. She wanted to see the company through their eyes, and maybe, just maybe, uncover the truth. The distribution center was located on the outskirts of town, a sprawling warehouse filled with towering shelves and the constant hum of activity. Evelyn arrived early, her heart pounding as she approached the entrance. She had chosen the name Ellie for her undercover identity, and she carried a fake resume that listed her as a single mother looking for a fresh start. As she walked through the doors, she was greeted by a man in his 50s with a kind smile and a name tag that read Frank. "Welcome to Crestline Foods," Frank said warmly. "I'm the floor manager here. You must be Ellie. Ready for your first day?" Ellie nodded, forcing a smile. "Yes, sir. I'm ready to work." Frank gave her a quick tour of the facility, introducing her to the team. There was Mia, a young woman with a sharp wit and a knack for organizing. Javier, a quiet but hard-working man who always seemed to be one step ahead. And Sarah, a single mother of two who had been with the company for years. Evelyn noticed how tired Sarah looked, her eyes shadowed with exhaustion, but she still managed to laugh and joke with her co-workers. As the days turned into weeks, Evelyn settled into her new role. She worked long hours, lifting boxes, sorting inventory, and packing orders. She listened to her co-workers' stories, their struggles, and their dreams. She learned that Mia was saving up to go back to school, that Javier was sending money to his family overseas, and that Sarah was barely making ends meet. Evelyn's heart ached for them, but she also felt a growing sense of pride. These were the people who kept Crestline running, and they deserved so much more than they were getting. But then she noticed something. Small things at first. A box of snacks missing here. A pallet of products unaccounted for there. At first, Evelyn thought it might just be a mistake, a miscount. But as the days went by, the pattern became clearer. Someone was stealing, and the evidence pointed to Sarah. Evelyn's stomach churned as she watched Sarah slip a box of protein bars into her bag one evening. She wanted to confront her, to demand an explanation, but she held back. She needed to be sure. Over the next few days, she kept a close eye on Sarah, her heart heavy with every stolen item she witnessed. She couldn't understand why Sarah would do this. She was one of the most dedicated employees, always the first to arrive and the last to leave. What could possibly drive her to steal from the company? One Friday evening, as the team was finishing up for the day, Evelyn decided it was time to act. She waited until everyone else had left, then approached Sarah, who was sitting alone in the break room, her head in her hands. "Sarah," Evelyn said softly, sitting down across from her, "can we talk?" Sarah looked up, her eyes red and swollen. "Ellie, I'm sorry. I know you've seen me taking things. I didn't know what else to do." Evelyn's heart broke as Sarah began to cry. "Tell me what's going on," she urged. "Maybe I can help." Sarah took a deep breath, her hands trembling. "It's my son, Danny. He's been sick, really sick. The doctors say he needs a special treatment, but I can't afford it. I've been working double shifts, taking out loans, but it's not enough. I didn't want to steal Ellie, but I didn't know how else to keep him alive." Tears streamed down Evelyn's face as she listened. She thought about her own life, her own privileges, and how easily she could have been in Sarah's shoes. She reached across the table and took Sarah's hand. "You should have told someone," she said gently. "We're a family here. We take care of each other." Sarah shook her head. "I was too ashamed and too scared. I thought if anyone found out, I'd lose my job, and then what would happen to Danny?" Evelyn squeezed her hand. "You're not going to lose your job, Sarah. I promise." The next morning, Evelyn called a meeting with the entire staff. She stood at the front of the room, her heart pounding as she prepared to reveal her true identity. "Everyone," she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "I need to tell you something. My name isn't Ellie. It's Evelyn Carter. I'm the CEO of Crestline Foods." The room erupted in gasps and murmurs. Sarah's face turned pale, her hands clutching the edge of the table. Evelyn held up a hand. Silence in the room. "I came here because I wanted to understand what was happening in this facility. I wanted to see the company through your eyes, and I did. I saw the hard work, the dedication, the struggles, and I also saw something else, something that broke my heart." She turned to Sarah, her eyes filled with compassion. "Sarah, I know why you've been taking products. And while I can't condone what you did, I understand why you did it. You were trying to save your son, and that's something no mother should ever have to do alone." Sarah burst into tears, her shoulders shaking as she buried her face in her hands. Evelyn walked over to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone anymore, Sarah. Crestline is going to help you. We're going to cover Danny's treatment, and we're going to make sure you never have to struggle like this again." The room was silent, the weight of Evelyn's words sinking in. Then, slowly, one by one, the staff began to clap. Mia wiped tears from her eyes. Javier nodded in approval, and Frank gave Evelyn a proud smile. Sarah looked up, her face a mixture of shock and gratitude. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. Evelyn smiled. "You don't have to say anything. Just know that we're here for you, all of us." As the meeting ended, Evelyn stayed behind, watching as her employees hugged Sarah and offered their support. She felt a sense of pride she hadn't felt in years. This was what Crestline was all about, not just selling products, but making a difference in people's lives. In the weeks that followed, Evelyn implemented new policies to support her employees. She raised wages, offered better benefits, and created a fund to help staff in times of crisis. The theft stopped, morale soared, and the distribution center became a place where people felt valued and cared for. As for Sarah, she became one of Crestline's most vocal advocates. She shared her story with anyone who would listen, inspiring others to seek help when they needed it. Danny's treatment was a success, and for the first time in years, Sarah felt hope. Evelyn often thought about her time undercover, about the lessons she had learned and the lives she had touched. She realized that being a CEO wasn't just about running a company. It was about leading with compassion, understanding, and a willingness to listen. And as she sat in her office one evening, looking out at the setting sun, she knew that she had finally become the leader she had always wanted to be. The moral of the story? True leadership isn't about power or control. It's about empathy, understanding, and the courage to stand by your people, no matter what. Because at the end of the day, we're all human, and we all deserve a second chance. Before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Stories like these remind us of the power of kindness, courage, and standing up for what's right. If this story touched your heart, made you think, or inspired you in any way, let us know in the comments below. Tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to share this story with others. Sometimes, a simple act of sharing can make a huge impact. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join our community. We've got more heartfelt stories coming your way. Until next time, remember, kindness changes lives. See you soon.